Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Travis back with another episode of the Rep by Rep Strength Podcast. So, first and foremost, a little housekeeping. If you are not signed up for my email list, please go and do that. It's just a weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Just helpful tips and things of that nature about training, nutrition, recovery, things along those lines. So you can do that at travisbarrett.com/email. Secondly, I started a Discord channel, just as kind of like a central hub where I can easily, communicate with everybody, whether it's text, audio, video, whatever. And it's just my online community, and it's called the Strength Circle. So some of those channels, the vast majority of those channels are just going to be open, free to join, hop in, invite your friends, family, things that you think will, or people that you think will benefit from learning more about nutrition, training, and recovery. And it's meant to be a community where, it's not just me in there talking. There's other folks that are going to contribute as well. So there's other experts, because I definitely don't know everything, as far as the body goes. I just know my small niche, and even within that small niche, I'm always trying to learn and become a better practitioner and coach and things of that nature. So anyway, that will be available at travisbarrett.com/strength circle. So you can go and sign up for your Discord and then just join up. So there's nothing else to it. And then if you want to be in one of those locked channels, there's going to be a few channels that are locked where that's more for my one-on-one or small group online coaching people, and that's where I'll put them and get a little more granular with them. So otherwise, it's free to join, and then if you're interested in some of those locked channels, just get a hold of me, and we'll talk about next steps and things like that, and see if it's even appropriate for you. So anyway, just some updates about where I've been the last couple of weeks and what I've had going on. So I'll do my best to make sure I do this in chronological order here. So a few weeks back, went to Nampa, Idaho, which is just outside of Boise, and my USAW, which is USA Weightlifting certification, had expired several years ago. I think I originally got it 2012, and I just let it lapse. And anyway, it'd been a little while, so opportunity came up to go to Nampa and recertify and go through the course again and all that. So that was really nice. So anyway, went down there, got that knocked out. So got the USAW level 1. So it's just a very basic, like, hey, attend the course, consume the information, demonstrate that you can understand the progressions and regressions and all that stuff, and then take a little quiz, and there you go, you got your level 1. So anyway, when I go on these trips, I'm currently on a trip that I'll explain later, but when I go on these trips for work, it's kind of refreshing because I get great sleep in the hotel because I don't have my kiddos with me, and I don't have them waking me up in the middle of the night or yelling or screaming or fighting with, I have 2 girls, so I don't have the girls fighting with each other and all that stuff. So I sleep really well when I'm on the road, but when I travel at the end of the day, I'm gassed. So I'll usually just get takeout from some spot and just chill out and watch some action movies that I want to watch, because I can never watch those when I'm at home because the girls are a little too young for some of the movies I like. So anyway, I went after the first day of the USAW course, and I was just tired. Went and got some Chinese takeout, came back, and I'm just flipping through channels trying to find some I want to watch. And anyway, I run across one of the ESPN channels was showing the high school softball all-star game. So these are girls that are going on to play at D1 schools on a full ride athletic scholarship for sure. So, I'm like, well, there's nothing else really on. They didn't have as big of a channel selection that I wanted, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll just check out some ESPN, keep going back and forth between softball and I think there's another basketball game on or whatever. So I keep bouncing back and forth between those two. And anyway, the craziest thing was there were two girls playing on those all-star teams that I had coached at some point for, strength and conditioning. And these girls were absolute beasts, and it's, I obviously played a very, very small role in their development because I think I worked with them when they were 8th, 9th grade for 12 weeks or 16 weeks or something like that. So in the grand scheme of things, it's just a very small role, and they're going to continue the course, and hopefully they'll have great coaches in college, and they'll continue to play as long as they want to play. And that's one of the really fun parts about strength and conditioning is it's kind of like planting seeds, because all these different plants, are going to grow at different rates, and they're going to mature at different rates. So people that you coach and you work with, and hey, let me help you with this, let me help you with that, let me adjust your training here, whatever, you kind of forget about it. And then years later, you'll see that person, or you'll get a message about like, hey, you helped me with X, Y, Z, and I changed this and changed that, and it made a difference. So some of that stuff, they hear it, but they may not realize the changes that were made for years sometimes. So anyway, that was just kind of a cool, fun little story when I was sitting in the middle of the hotel in Nampa, Idaho. So anyway, there's that. And before I forget, there was a guy that I was working out today, and just offered the guy a little tip about his head position. Every time he was doing a clean, he kept throwing his eyes started down, so then his chin was kind of tucked. So every time he would clean, he'd have to whip his head back to counter the weight on the extension. So I just gave him a little cue about like, hey man, just keep your eyes forward, keep them in a fixed spot. That way you don't have to, make that adjustment that's affecting your balance and making this whole exercise feel harder than it needs to be. So he's like, okay, cool, thanks. And that's one of those things where I'm for sure this guy is going to implement it immediately, and he'll make the adjustment just because the type of personality that he has, and the type of athlete that he is. He'll make that change. But he may not fully realize how much like a little tweak like that will help him for years to come. So anyway, so yeah, I was in Nampa, Idaho doing the USAW, and then had a few weeks that were really cool where, somebody popped in my, like there's just people that come in and out of the facility that I work at all day, and I'm interacting with people all day. And some stuff you agree to and then you forget about. You're like, okay, what was it I was going to do? I forgot to write that down. And I had agreed to go do like some kind of speaking engagement or whatever at some place off base, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Thought nothing of it, and then, 2 weeks ago, the guy that I agreed to, I told him, yeah, I'll go to it. He came and got me in the morning. He's like, hey, man, you ready to go? I was like, where are we going again? He goes, you remember that spot off base we talked about last week? Oh, yeah, completely forgot to write that down. So anyway, I couldn't remember where it was we were going, so I was trying to get caught up on the drive over. And we go to this off-base location, and, it's one of those spots where they do a lot of, I'm not sure what the hell they do really, but I mean, from my understanding, a lot of intel and preparation type work and things like that. So a lot of these people at this location are like former operators, they're former like tier 1, tier 2 operators, and they deal a lot with personnel. And, and then some of the people are, civilians and expert in their respective field or whatever. But this location is one of those where you can't have your phone on you. Like you have to literally leave your phone outside. Then you have to take off every electronic piece of equipment you have, even if it's a watch. Well, with the exception of like Casio, But like I had to take my watch off, I had to show my ID, and then I had to basically be escorted by 1 or 2 people, that effectively are vouching for me along the way. Like, yeah, this is who he says he is. Yeah, we're gonna escort him along. So it's one of those type of places. So I go in there and they want me to talk about, restoration, like how to make their bodies feel better, and then to talk about nutrition a little bit. So anyway, I get up and talk for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. And the nutrition, to make it simple, I am not an expert in nutrition. And I'm not going to do it justice by trying to get up there and talk about something that's not my wheelhouse. So I just write 4 or 5 names on the board of people that I have a lot of respect and regard for. I said, hey, these are going to be your people to go to. That's exactly who you should look at. And if you're very, very interested, then you'll give a damn and you'll continue down that rabbit hole for nutrition. And then as far as restoration goes, I would give a brief overview of the restoration type activities they should look at, and like how to take care of their bodies, how to recover, things like that. And then opened it up to questions, answered some questions for a little while. And, basically my presentation to them as far as restoration goes is the first thing we have to do is we have to get you pain-free, if possible. Because a lot of people, not just military, but a lot of people in general, are walking around in a significant amount of pain, and they think it's too late. Here's the thing, is the body is very plastic, and what I mean by that is the body will become whatever you want it to become. So if you want to be fast, you have to train appropriately for speed. If you want to be strong, then you must train appropriately for strength, and so on and so on and so on. So a lot of it comes down to knowing what to do, and then the other part of it comes down to doing what you know you should be doing. So, so we address, okay, here's what you need to do, Limber 11, Agile 8, whatever. Okay, now actually go do it. And then see what changes, see how much better you feel. So that was the first step. Let's start with getting you as pain-free as possible, get you feeling as good as you can feel. And basically, if we can restore some range of motion, then, and only then, can we start to look at strengthening the joints, or strengthening the body. Okay? So once we restore range of motion, then we start to strengthen it a little bit. So one of my favorite sayings by Gray Cook is, do not stack strength on top of dysfunction. If you have a dysfunctional movement pattern, try to figure out why you have that dysfunctional pattern, see if it can be treated and corrected, and then from there, then you can start to look at strength. Once that dysfunctional pattern is corrected, we have pain-free range of motion, then we can start to strengthen it. And then once we get consistency with that range of motion, with that strength, then we can start to talk about how to load it appropriately. Because what will happen a lot of times is people will make the mistake of, for example, with beginners, if you give them 10 reps of a goblet squat, it's likely going to be that those 10 reps of the goblet squat are going to look, all of those 10 reps will look different to some degree. They're not good enough yet to repeat the movement and repeat the movement in the exact same way every single time. So that's where, hey, before we give them a weight, let's see if they can get through body weight squats performed very, very, very proficiently, consistently over, whatever, 4, 6, 8 week progression in terms of, accumulating that volume. Then if they can do that over and over and over and over again until that motor pattern is ingrained, now we can give them a weight. And okay, now we've increased the complexity a bit. We've given you a weight. Can you do the exact same thing you just did with weight? That's the question. So things like that, we're just presenting to these guys and talking to them about, like, hey, here's generally how you feel better, and gave them some more resources there as far as, like, hey, there's some really good people out there. Look at these videos on YouTube. Get educated. They do a great job of diving into more detail than I'm going to provide today. So, and then if you need more help, email me, give me a call, whatever. So anyway, I wrap up, and I think I've been up there for an hour, maybe, and it's like, well, I'll be hanging around if you guys have questions. So anyway, a couple guys come up and start asking me some questions about this and that, and one guy says, hey, how's such and such work for running? What would you do here for running? Okay, well, what about cycling? How's this affected? What about swimming? Do you know anything here how this would affect swimming in terms of fatigue and all this stuff? And, so at this point, he's mentioned running, biking, and swimming. And in my head, while he's talking, I'm like, okay, so this must be some kind of triathlete, whatever. So I'm like, oh yeah, well, here's what I think. Here's what I would suggest. Are you like triathlete or what's up, man? And he goes, oh, no, I was actually in the Navy SEALs. I was a Navy SEAL for 20 years. And I was like, holy shit, that's freaking awesome. And then, said thanks for your help, shook my hand, walked away. And then, one of the other guys that was there was former Green Beret for an extended period of time. Another guy was a Ranger, but he also had like some advanced qualifications. And, he was also in the audience. So what's crazy is when I first started getting into strength conditioning as an undergrad, there's people that'll come to your classes and present and talk about, whatever focus or specialty they have within the world of human performance. And I remember one person that came and presented, and they said, if you really dive into this stuff and you're willing to take chances and you're willing to travel and you're willing to do all this stuff, you're going to have an opportunity to meet a lot of really cool people, work with some awesome people, and travel. And I remember sitting there in undergrad, I'm like, bullshit. Like, there's, I'm probably not going to be able to do any of that. Sure as hell. Like, all this training, all this continuing education, the reps of working with people is led me to this point where I'm able to give concise, confident answers to some of these guys at this point. So it's really kind of a cool moment for me, just like, one of those moments you won't forget where, you're trained to do this, you continue to hone your craft and work at your trade, and moments like that will stick with you. So anyway, so that was a few weeks ago, and finally, just to continue with that is, so I'm down here in San Antonio because I'm going back to talk with more HPO staff, which is Human Performance Optimization, at Air Force Special Operations. So I or excuse me, Air Force Special Warfare. So I'm going to talk with all these guys and meet and greet a lot of people who, not just strength coaches, but physical therapists, athletic trainers, dietitians, statisticians, sports scientists, data input people. Like all of these people play a role in human performance and optimizing it. So my point is that every day, how I look at coaching, every day is an opportunity to get better. So, in some capacity, whether I'm traveling to places like this, I'm giving presentations, and I'm not talking at people at those presentations. Like I'm providing them with information, but then I'm actually asking them quite a few questions about what type of training did you do? How did that look? Like I'm not pointing fingers and saying, here's what you need to do. I'm trying to get a beat on where they're at and learn from them a lot, so because especially in the human performance realm, we're learning a lot every day. And it's just a matter of, how do people decipher that information, then how do we discuss it, and then how's that going to impact, or how do we affect future training outcomes. So anyway, that's where I've been this week, from Monday, today's Wednesday, and fly out at the ass crack of dawn tomorrow at freaking 6 a.m. flight. So we're going to have to be at the airport at 4. But the good news is I'll get back to Washington at 9:30. So anyway, but yeah, the whole time we were down here was just me shutting up and asking a lot of questions and talking to a lot of the people involved in HBO and seeing like, okay, what are you guys doing? What can I take away from this, and add to my toolkit, if you will, and how can I help more people? I may not do exactly what you're doing from special warfare because the individual that I might be working with, but I can take a snippet of what they're doing and say like, hey, I think it has application here. But anyway, that's been a very busy past few weeks in terms of, doing some continuing ed stuff and, presenting to some people. And then this whole week has just been me taking in a lot of information, taking a lot of notes, seeing what I can, add to the toolbox, so to speak. So anyway, if you guys have questions about anything, if I can help you with anything, the easiest place is going to be just hop in Discord and, just start asking questions or, make some comments or whatever. And, it's not just going to be me in there. There's going to be other people in the realm of human performance in that channel. So definitely jump in there and get involved, and don't be shy, because it's one of those things where it's my group, I'm the admin, and my rules, if you look at them, it's pretty cut and dry. It's very simple. If somebody's an asshole, I'll kick them out of there, because that's not the type of community I want to have. I want to have a community where people want to learn, they want to get better, and they want to help each other. They don't need to be talked down to or ridiculed or whatever. It needs to be a spot where it's like, hey, we need to foster learning and ask questions, help each other, and move from there. So anyway, hop in that Discord channel. It's travisbarrett.com/strength circle. So hopefully I'll get another one of these out to you guys without it being such a long gap in between. Have a good night.